All right, Adam, we're live, man. We're live. And we were just talking before we started recording, and you've had a good week this week, man. Sounds like you've had some exciting news, not just holidays, but you and your family have some awesome stuff going on.
Yeah, it is. It's a great time of year. It's a downshift. Hopefully, for most people, connect with family, and we're feeling it. Got the rush of Christmas presents all kind of hopefully taken care of. But yeah, this week we found out my oldest son got into college. Huge moment, for any kid. I mean, you only get a couple of those in your life, right? You get getting into college, finding the person you're gonna spend your life with, maybe getting hitched to them. It's a handful of these big moments, and it was nice to watch him go through it. And this week, I got to give him a big hug, and the tears flowed, and it's good. It's a big chapter.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, and you think the tears flow now. I'm sure both of you will have tears when the actual moment comes where he heads off to school.
Oh, that's gonna gut me. I don't even want to
Yeah,
talk about it.
probably like you, I'll never forget that day. My sister, my parents being with me, and then them just driving off. I think all of us had a moment there, and everyone experiences that. But
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a bittersweet good thing for the next chapter of life.
it's a true coming of age, and I know there's been a lot of like speculation on the value of higher education. I still think it's if you're fortunate enough to get to go through it, what a gift to like spend 4 years just studying the thing that you're interested in, trying to get better at it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you end up making lifelong friends, learning
Mhm.
just a bunch of life lessons. The education's great. There's a lot more lessons you learn as well. I would never trade college for anything.
Right.
Yeah. Some of my
Same.
best friends, some of my best moments, I will always cherish that. But man, let's talk about your book. So I was reading one of your posts too, where you were like, "This is random, but I wrote a book." So your book is called "The Things You Have to Do Before I Buy You a Phone," which just that title alone, I'm sure there are so many parents out there, or just people in general that are like, yes. But man, tell your story about just what I don't know, where you got the idea, what motivated you to write this.
I just the honest, quickest answer is just being a parent. My oldest child, the one who's just about to go to college, was born in 2007, August of 2007. The iPhone came out in June of 2007, the first edition. So I've had a front row seat to kind of watching this collision of childhood and technology. Um, and if you're a parent who's going through this, you know that you're tackling experiences and things you never could have anticipated because you didn't grow up like that. These are new things. My kids across the years have gotten in trouble with group texts, with screen time, with sending the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, and it's like it's new territory. And you got to teach them new habits and behaviors. That was part of it, just being a parent, and being uncomfortable with a lot of the stuff we're going through and trying to figure it out, trying to make rules in our household that made sense for our kids. And I think one of the biggest experiences up front that I had was just, you know, around that, like the first, like when I look at childhood, it kind of goes in stages, like modern childhood, like kids get access to tablets and iPads around, you start seeing it around that 3, 4, 5 age. I'll notice it kids in strollers. I'll see kids at restaurant tables, definitely kids in airplanes, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
But that's that's kind of phase one. And then, they get into elementary school and there's a lot of smart screens instead of chalkboards for the teacher to be able to be a little more versatile and project video and stuff. And so, but they're inundated with that. And then eventually you get the ask for a phone. It's usually around 10, 11, 12. They start asking, okay, can I get a phone? And it starts to become this begging thing because all their friends have one, right? And then as a parent, you get stuck in the situation where you're like, I don't want my kid to be left out. Because one of the other things we grew up with, or I grew up with, was landlines. You wanted to get in touch with somebody, you called them, you talked to their mom or dad for a minute. They would yell and find the kid, and then they'd come down. That stopped, with this generation. Now it's like direct contact right to their friend. And even if you say like, "Hey, let's go hang out at this place," plans could change, and they can make in real time, set things up and change it differently. And then, so it's a totally different way of experiencing communication and reality. And as a parent, you just feel like, I don't want my kid to be left out. So you get them a phone, and then you run into this like series of pitfalls and mistakes and trial and error along the way. I think as I was looking at this period, I was staring at that period right when they started asking for a phone. And I was like, instead of going from tablet to smart screen to phone, can I interrupt that with a checklist? Here are 50 things, kid, that if you want that phone so bad, you got to do these 50 things. And it turned into this like gauntlet of real life lessons, and these were all the skills I wanted my kid to like get dirty with before they got to that carrot of the phone, if you will.
Yeah, man, that's great. I mean, that honestly, it sounds like stuff that my parents would have done with me as well if I was a kid in this time. And I was laughing as you were talking about the landline, because I remember I used to dread call. I used to pray when I called my friends that they would be the one to answer and not the mom
Right.
or dad. And I remember even, I think I'm just thinking of a moment, like me and one of my best friends, I think we got in a fight one day, and then his older sister called and was like, "Don't, if you guys ever get in, I'm gonna come beat you up if you ever," and I was just like, that was just a different era of time. But I do remember getting my first cell phone, and I remember I didn't have text messages, but some of my friends did. And I was like, why can't I have text? And now it's just like a thing everybody has. So
Yeah.
it is so interesting, like, just to be a part of the progression of it all. I didn't have one of the first iPhones. Obviously, now it's like, I don't know what I would do without it. Sometimes I wish I didn't have it, but you're spot on, man. Like, a lot of us didn't, we don't know what it's like growing up as a kid right now in this age, and just different type of pressures. We all had pressures as kids, but, now with social media and text and having access, and like you said, like, they tell you one thing, but they could change plans like right there next to you, and you wouldn't even know it while they're talking with their friends. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
No, before it was like, hey, I'll see you at 3 o'clock at this place. And you'd show up or you didn't. And if you didn't, you had a black mark on your character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's something you said there was like, you remember when you got your first phone, and it was probably like more of a Nokia block, brick thing.
Yeah. Singular Wireless, that was the
Yeah.
carrier. I remember this, I was playing Xbox, and my dad and mom had put it under my bed, and they kept calling it, and if you know the old Singular ringtone, it's like, "Da da 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 da," and they called it for, like, 30 minutes, and I never found it, and then finally my dad was like, "For the love of God, kid, look under your bed. We've been calling you for 30 minutes." I'm
That's
like, "Oh, I
awesome.
got a phone," and then I remember calling all my friends who had phones, "I got a phone, I got a phone."
Yeah.
It was a major moment. It was awesome.
That moment of getting a phone is almost like the new coming of age initiation rite. It's just like this graduation from young childhood into some like pre-adolescence, right? And if you want to get really ancient about it, if you go back to like cultures hundreds, thousands of years ago, that moment of graduating from child to adolescent, young adult, it was ritualized in a lot of cultures. You're going to go out on a 2-day journey with your dad or your mom to like, or you're going to be trained in these arts, like you're ready. And we don't have time. We're too busy. We don't have those structures in place anymore to like ceremonialize that moment, which is really important. You get these kids that are becoming young people, and instead we hand them a phone and we're like, here's your connection to the internet and all the information in the world. Good luck.
Yeah, do what I do. I'm always, go, 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 and talk, talk, talk. And yeah, it's interesting how you look at that. What are some of the checklist things that your kids had to do to get the phone?
Yeah, so there's it kind of breaks down into three or four groups. There's a large percentage of like just practical skills. So, do the laundry for a week, cook a full meal for the family, and then clean up, and you're going to interact with knives, and you're going to interact with flame. These are good things to happen to you when you're 11, 12 years old. You got to like start getting dangerous. There are other skills like, I think one of the ones I had in there was like clean the bathroom, like top to bottom, spick and span, feel that, because I do it every week, so be good for you to do it too, contribute to the household. So there's practical stuff in there. And then there's like a tranche of like slightly more advanced skills where it's like, catch a fish. It's important to know where food comes from. I think kids get used to like seeing things in the refrigerator or going to the food store and they see like nicely packaged meat. And it's like, okay, well, go hunt. Go see an animal and then take its life and then give thanks for that it's feeding you, like see the circle of life. Another one was grow a vegetable from seed, the act of like making a plant and watching it and nurturing it and growing it. I might put like running a 5K was in there too, kind of as an advanced skill, because you can't just get off the couch and do it. You got to train a little bit, it's 3.2 miles. So, but there's an accomplishment, and there's races in every community on Memorial Day or July 4th where you can run a 5K and finish it with a parent or alone and feel good about it. And then there were some spiritual experiences in there too. Like I think one of them was like visit a cemetery.
Hmm.
And that happened. That was a personal story with me and my son, my middle son. We were taking a walk one day and ended up seeing a cemetery and walking through it. And he started asking some interesting questions. It was cool to touch that, talk about death a little bit. Where do you go when all this ends? Another one was, whether or not you're religious, I think it's important to go visit a service, see what people talk about, what they care about, and don't just go, if you're a Christian, don't just go to a Christian one, go to a temple and go to a mosque. There's a lot of similarities between these people, what they believe and how they talk about God. And it's good to know that. And I'll give you one of the last ones in the spiritual column might be like, go on a weekend road trip with me, which feels weird to put in the spiritual column. But for me, like being in a car with one of my kids, the windows down, the music's playing, we're on a 2-hour trip. That's church in a way.
Yeah.
And in the book, I'm like, pick a place, we'll figure it out, we'll go, come back. But that's just one of the 50 things you got to check off to get to your phone.
Yeah. It sounds like, as much as this is for your children, there's probably some cool moments in there for you as well that was kind of built into, maybe not even purposefully, but to, create some awesome memories. Go catch a fish, go on a road trip,
That's right.
walk the cemetery, and have moments with your kids where they ask you questions. You guys just get closer, and you get to share, knowledge and transfer wisdom to them, and hear what their brains are going, what kind of curiosity is going through them, and just talking, staying off the screen, the main thing there. But
Yep.
when you were creating this list of things, were there some things you put in there that were, for lack of a better term, like selfishly for you too, so that you could experience those things? Or was that just kind of something that organically came out of the list, for your children?
That's a great question. No, a lot of them were. I mean, the road trip one specifically, like, my first just went to college. My kids are 18, 16, and 13. So I've lived a lot with them, and I've had separate road trips with each of them across the years. And yeah, that one went in there because I liked it. I liked that experience. One of them was play chess. I learned to play a game of chess with me. I wanted a partner to play chess with once in a while. And okay, so a lot of people might get the book and think, I don't know how to play chess, as an adult. And that's a great opportunity to learn. Like I personally think chess is like 1,500 years old. It's an old game. It's been around forever. And it's really cool once you learn it. And it's a chance for you to learn something alongside your kid. Trying to think. One of the ones was like, play me to a game of 21 basketball. And again, like, that's a little selfish because I want to, as you get older, to keep playing.
Yeah.
But when I wrote that one up, I was like, I will not go easy on you. I will bring the heat because, what I want is eventually for you to beat me.
Yeah.
But honestly,
Like, yeah, legitimately.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's awesome. It's really cool to hear you explain this, because it's taking me back as a kid right now. My mom played basketball, so I remember like us going to the local elementary school and she teaching me how to play 21, or me and my dad going fishing. I did road trips with my parents too. They'd wake me up on a Saturday morning and we'd go to a basketball game, from Arkansas. So they'd be like, "Hey, we got tickets to the game today. Come on, let's go." And it'd be like, "What?" Just those moments that are created through that stuff. And it is kind of odd now. Like you have to, like your book is a perfect timing for that book, because it does seem, I don't have children, but a lot of my friends have young kids. Well, I've got a niece, and now that we're like talking, I'm seeing that struggle of like, they're doing things with them, but like, how are they going to get all these moments that like we had growing up? And I'm literally gonna send your book to like 20 people I know and just be like, "Hey, man, this sounds like so cool." Like, obviously, I'm not doing it yet, but like, I think you guys may like really enjoy having some of these ideas. I get like I'm just taking notes right now of like who I can share this with because I just think it's so
I
cool.
appreciate that. Thanks, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's taking me back. I'm like, man, these were awesome moments I appreciate growing up. And you're right. I don't think as many kids are getting to experience those moments now, just with how
Right.
fast things are moving and parents are going 50 miles an hour and they're always on screens too. And the kids are learning from them. And so it's just this kind of this cycle that's going really fast. And you seem to slow it down with your idea in your book, which is, man, it's
Well, and that's
fantastic.
you're touching on a critical point, which is that like there's a pendulum, right, between the digital virtual world and the physical world. And I think what's happened in the last decade, at least, it's really swung hard into digital. And as parents, you got to notice that and check it because what you're saying is like the stuff that you lived, that you loved, that made you who you are today. Our kids are missing out on a lot of those experiences. The trigger for this book was me walking into a sleepover. My daughter was having some friends sleepover and seeing 10 girls all next to each other, but with their heads down individually in screens and thinking about, God, how many minutes, hours they were going to spend doing that instead of other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird, nobody wants this for their kids. Everybody
No.
looks at that and feels like they recoil. They're like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, is because like they don't know the difference. Like we experienced the before and the after. And I'm sitting here thinking like I appreciate those moments so much more. Like when I put my phone down when I'm with my friends or my wife, like I appreciate and remember that moment so much more than me just texting and doing things on my phone. Like it's such a mindless thing that leads to not much value or enjoyment at all, but yet we still do it. So it's just
Yeah,
putting that just yeah, it's
if you were born in the early 90s,
mhm,
you were one of the last generations to experience childhood without the internet.
mhm,
So you're on that cusp area. My kids were born in 2007. They're natives. They have
yeah,
lived this stuff their whole life. So like, yeah, I mean, another analogy I make in the book early on is like this is a funny stat I came across, which is that in 1960, I think 42%, 44% of Americans, adult Americans, smoke cigarettes.
yeah. I've heard that one
That's
before.
almost half the country
Yeah,
smoking cigarettes. And, you know, it took 20, 30 years to see the downstream effects of that, to understand cancer, the direct correlation. And then I think currently 12% of Americans smoke cigarettes now. But like as a society, we have to go through this stuff and sometimes we get it wrong. And I think we're going to look back at giving kids phones at 12 years old, unfettered access to the internet and think, what were we thinking?
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
needs to be regulated differently. But for now, this is like a small bite of the apple, this strategy.
Yeah. And I mean, we're starting to see, I've noticed some school districts now actually where like you can't have your phone actually in school now. Like they put them in the bags and everyone seems to like really actually appreciate that. And I was actually talking to someone yesterday too. And even like some people are kind of getting burnt out on the screen time too. And it's actually like appreciated to have a break from it. So maybe that's a little bit of a swing in the right direction. I'm sure it's going to
Yep.
take a while, but there
You're
is that,
100% right. I'm
yeah,
seeing
there's that
tons of
fatigue
signs.
happening.
Yep.
And maybe that's a good thing. How long did it take each of your children to accomplish the checklist to get their phone? And then what was the moment like when they actually got the phone?
So two of them are real, I don't want to say disciplined, but like focused and urgent, and they kind of burned through it. I would say 4.5 months probably for the two of them. And this idea hatched during my third kid. So I put the older kids, they'd already had phones at that point. I put them through the paces afterwards, but they still accomplished it quickly. My middle kid he's a little more go with the flow. It wasn't as urgent for him, but I would say, under 8 months. Because there's some, I mean, every kid that I've seen get this book, they attack it. They treat it like, number one, they love a challenge. I love a checklist. Okay, 1, 5, 9, 15. I've done all these. And then the parent usually comes in and looks at their work and they go, no, you haven't done that one, or you haven't done that one. But there are some tough ones in there. Like one of them's like camp in the woods overnight, right? And again, that's one that maybe not everybody's done, but it's not too hard. You can get a tent or you can rent a tent. Go find a local area where you can set up camp. Sometimes you can even pull your car up, but it's a good experience to go sit outside. And you got to find the right time of year to do that, right? Depending on where you live,
Yeah.
you got to find the right weekend when everybody's free. There's no sporting events. And so there's some in there that'll create a little more time, go on a
Yeah.
road trip, all that stuff.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, if they're like down to the final thing, but it involves you and you're like, yeah, I can go in 2 weeks. They're like,
Right.
come on, dad.
Yeah. Patience is part of it, kid.
You're purposely dragging this thing out on me. No, that's awesome. Well, Adam, I one more question for you because man, this is so cool. Again, I'm thinking of like literally 20 people I'm going to recommend your book to like this week when I have some downtime. I'm going to just fire it off and recommend it. I ask everyone this who comes on the podcast too, and you know, writing a book, man, it's awesome. I'm sure because you've written, I'm sure you've read a lot too. So I always am curious of what's a book or two that has had a really big impact on you personally? And then when people ask, maybe it's your own kids, for a good book recommendation, what do you like to recommend to others?
Yeah. So I was an English major in college because I like fiction. I love a good novel. And that goes to my love of just stories in general. I love a good film. I love a good story. I love a good podcast. If you can tell a good story, I'm in. And one book that I actually reference in the book I wrote is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, who was he was a German writer, I think. And he writes about I don't know if it's about the Buddha or um, just kind of this dude in the East on his way to enlightenment. And it's a beautiful story about, growing up, figuring out the meaning of life and what's important to you. But he goes through like all the different chapters of, should getting rich and, living kind of like a gluttonous, lustful life. And then the ascetic life of like, just fasting and wandering through the woods. He tries all these different things and tries and fails, but then he eventually arrives. The last third of the book is absolutely beautiful. Sitting by a river, he becomes a ferryman, and he finds all the wisdom in the water of the river and the passages about the. Have you ever read this?
No, I haven't.
All right, it's short. It's like 140 pages, but any
Okay.
kid can pick it up. But it's the last chapter, the last like third of the book is just there's so much wisdom in it.
Yeah. I like that. I like books that are fiction but have like a message to them. I've been telling a lot of people lately, I really, in my reading journey started late. And that's kind of like really the whole purpose of Books for Guys is like trying to encourage people younger than myself when I started enjoying reading to start reading earlier, to start that curiosity and personal development and enjoyment of reading. And I just now, over the past probably 18 to 24 months have really gotten into more fiction books, whether that be sci-fi fantasy, whether that be, I don't know, just different stories. I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies, personal development, business, but then my brain needs a break. So I started incorporating fiction books in between those
Yeah,
just for enjoyment and just to kind of tone things down. And now I've really like swung heavier to that side, and I've gotten to meet several authors who write different fiction genre books, and so that's one I'll add to my list. As I'm getting way more into it. It's such a I don't know. For me personally, it's very enjoyable to kind of just get lost for a while, and these are the books that I'm enjoying. But I like a good message in there as well that I can still
yeah.
take something from. So sounds
I
like
tend
one I
to
would like.
I tend to switch on and off between like one or two novels, and then I'll switch to nonfiction and learn something about history or biography. But you can learn a lot about human nature in a novel. No, I guess my point there was just like what I've learned. There's a lot about you can learn a lot about human nature in novels. How people think, how they act, and so I'm glad you're getting into it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's several books actually I've recommended recently where they're like really strong personal development books, but they're written through a fiction like story through the whole thing. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like entertaining and I'm still getting like what I really like. And so yeah, I'm always curious what people are interested in, just what they're reading, what they're recommend to others, because everyone has just again different interests. And that's again kind of the point of Books for Guys is just putting as many options out there for people to choose from. I don't I don't care what a young guy reads, just read something.
Yeah.
Read something you're interested in because if you like what you're reading, you'll probably you'll finish it and you'll pick up another book, and I'm sure that'll lead into other avenues of interest, like a lot of us that like to read now. And so, yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm gonna add that to my list.
Well, I love what you're doing with this podcast, and just to bring it full circle back to the beginning, you know, my kid who just got into college credits a lot of that to reading from an early age. You know, we encouraged it. We bought books, had him around. We read to them at night. I think it made a huge difference in his ability to kind of take in information, to process information. So, highly recommend it.
Yeah, man, it's so beneficial, and hopefully, what we're doing will help more young guys, figure that out, and again, get on that path a lot sooner. But Adam, man, this has been so awesome, man. Thank you for taking the time to come on here and talk about your book. Like I said, I'm probably gonna share it even with my parents too, because I think for them they would relive maybe some of these moments and think like, yeah, we did that with you. It wasn't to get a phone, but it was moments that we shared. So even just sharing it with them, I look forward to getting it out there and hearing what other people think, because it's just a time where it's needed, and hopefully a lot of parents can implement it and create these moments like they had growing up. And so awesome job, man.
But thank you.
Awesome work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, and Christmas is a good time for that because even if you got him a phone, you can like wrap that with it.
That's right. That's right. Well, we appreciate it, Adam.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the time.